All right, now let's go to the Super Bowl losers.
I like how you keep having
Chiefs.
to say it that way.
Well, of course. Why not? The Kansas City Chiefs, the runner-up in the NFL this year. They have no money. They are $23 million over the cap as it stands right now. They are going to be losing no big names because they've sewn up all their big names. They've got, I almost called him Trevor Lawrence, Patrick Mahomes, they've got Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones, Frank Clark. Who am I missing? They've got all of the Eric Fisher. They've got their big names sewn up already. But what they're going to be losing is their depth. They will lose.
Which they didn't have a whole lot of to begin with.
Right. They will lose 9 starters combined this year. 6 on offense, 3 on defense. And the starters that they're going to be losing are the ones that they needed to upgrade anyway.
Daniel Sorensen, Brashad Breeland, just looking at guys that, Austin Ryder, these are the guys that played the majority of snaps. Andrew Wiley's a restricted free agent, but he'll be back.
Yeah.
This is just not, it's not going to be an overly active team. I'm very curious to see what they do in the draft. I had Wyatt Davis, the guard from Ohio State, to them at 32 in my first mock draft. He'll be their pick at 31 in my next one. I don't see any way they don't draft linemen.
They have to.
You're going to get Fisher back. You can't. The problem with deals like Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and all these guys they have is that you can't afford anybody to get hurt. So think about what they did last year. They had Eric Fisher at left tackle. The rest of the line was guys like Kelce Osemele and Mike Remmers that are low, very cheap veteran guys. Well, why are they cheap? Mike Remmers was cheap because he's not very good. Kelce Osemele was cheap because he's been hurt for about 9 straight years. I think Kelce Osemele got hurt in middle school and has never stopped being hurt. Right. So, but that's what you can get on these little low fringy deals. I mean, guys will will make concessions to be on a winner.
But that's the thing. They did this not this past year, but year before last when they actually won the Super Bowl. That was kind of their MO as well. Was that they just had these pieces that they could rotate around and they could mix things up. When a guy gets hurt, we've got enough of these middle of the road kind of guys that we can fill these holes, much like the Seattle Seahawks have been doing. And we see how well it's worked out for them. Now, obviously, Kansas City's done a little bit better than that, but the Super Bowl just showed that's your biggest deficiency, is your offensive line. And now you're going to be losing the guys that are there. I think they should try to retain Reeder, because I mean, he was very, very good all season long.
He was, and they probably would.
I don't think he gave up a sack in the regular season this year. I think he took like 680-something snaps and never gave up a sack.
I think you're right.
So,
but you also have to remember, this is a team that can restructure a lot of money.
Yes.
Frank Clark, they can restructure that deal and save almost $13 million. So I don't necessarily think you're going to see a market regression. You're going to see a regression in Kansas City. There's just no way around it. I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to go from the best team in the NFL to some also-ran that misses the playoffs. Stephen Tao said in the comments he thinks the Chargers win the division this year. I've said the same thing. I'm not confident enough to definitively say that. I want to see what the Chargers do. But I like the Chargers a lot. New coach. This is a team that lost, 9 games by 1 possession? So you're not alone in this division anymore. Let's say Denver winds up with Kirk Cousins, like I've reported on this show. Now the division is way tougher than it was. And I think that's going to be a problem. And Kansas City doesn't have the depth. I don't see the dynasty that everybody was worried about. I don't. I mean, I think they're going to be very competitive for a very long time. But I don't see 3 Super Bowls in 6 years or something like that.
I think it could happen. I think they're at the point that they have enough stars and this front office is smart enough to be able to get these deals. But you've pigeonholed yourself into doing what you've been doing. Now it worked. You've been to the Super Bowl the past 2 years. It's pretty fucking good. But how long can you sustain that? How long can you continue to have these $1 to $2 million offensive linemen and expect that to gel and work year after year after year. You're constantly on this chasing values. I mean, I think what's the doctor is if the doctor Duvernay Tardif. I think he's going to be a big decision. If he decides to come back and play, that's going to be a great improvement for this offensive line. But they're still going to have 2 other holes to fill, and Wyatt Davis makes a lot of sense. That would make a great addition to that offensive line. And then you just got to hope you get one of these guys on a sweet deal, because again, you're $23 million over the cap. What are you going to do? How are you going to bring somebody in that's not a rookie? It's going to take a lot of gymnastics, but hell, we didn't think that they'd be able to have this many $20 million guys on their payroll anyway. And they figured out how to make the money work last year for Chris Jones. Remember how shocked we were when the news came out? Oh, they found a way. Well, wait, they were over the cap. How did they do that? Oh, well, they moved the money around.
Because they're cap magicians.
Right.
They're not going to lose the high-end guys. The problem is that you're going to lose guys like Daniel Sorensen and the glue guys that keep this shit together.
Yep.
The biggest thing Kansas City has to improve, and we saw it in the Super Bowl, it screamed at you in the Super Bowl. They have one of the worst linebacking corps I've ever seen.
Yep.
This is a team that if they could wind up with a Xavier Collins or a Nick Bolton out of Missouri, I think they would be thrilled to death with that. Linebacker's not great in this draft. That's one of the biggest deficient positions in this draft. But I do look at a guy like Xavier Collins, who I have way higher than everybody else. I have him in my top 15. So not where he goes in terms of value. He would be a great fit here, and this is about the range that he will go.
I think they need to figure out a way to get another receiver in. You're going to lose Sammy Watkins. And
I'm not so sure you're going to lose Sammy Watkins.
Really? You think he'll sign for a minimum?
I think he's going to have to, because he's been hurt for about 10 straight years. And from what I hear, he likes it in Kansas City. He's bounced around. This is his 3rd team. I'm not positive that Sammy Watkins sees. Plus, let's be honest. There's not a lot of money out there.
True.
Right?
True.
All right. Where in the pantheon of receivers would you put Sammy Watkins in this free agent class?
Oh, I would say he's probably about 12, 15 in this class.
I don't have him that high.
Really?
No. I mean, think about how many. Here's my list of free agent wide receivers: Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kenny Golladay, Will Fuller, Antonio Brown, Curtis Samuel, T.Y. Hilton, Marvin Jones, Corey Davis. That's the 10 that you can't. Nelson Aguilar. So there's 11 that you can't even debate. There's no debate that Sammy Watkins is better than them. Then you get into this D.D. Westbrook, Tim Patrick, Rashard Higgins, Brashad Perriman, Josh Reynolds, A.J. Greene, Terrell Williams tier. They're all the same guy.
Right.
And Sammy Watkins has the highest ceiling of all those guys. He also has the lowest floor because he could play 6 games in a year and just be perpetually hurt. So, no, I mean, I don't see a team coming off big money for him. I could see Sammy Watkins signing a 3-year deal for $15 million. And it wouldn't shock me in the least.
Right.
Just wouldn't shock me at all.
Yeah.
He's also 28 years old. He's a 28-year-old injury-prone wide receiver that's on the most fun team in the NFL. I could see him going, you know what, money's not that important.
It would be a smart move for him. I just don't know if he has illusions of grandeur that he's going to get a bigger deal somewhere else, that he can go and get $6 to $8 million from somebody.
He's a guy that I think is going to hit the market with the intention of getting more money, find out how lukewarm the market is, and then come back to Kansas City and go, hey, the 3-year, $21 million deal sounds awful swimming to me.
Winning cures a lot of things. It definitely does. But as a team that has been in the Super Bowl twice in the last 2 years and is the runner-up from this past one, I think their future is pretty solid. It's not hitting yet. This regression that you've been hinting at, I don't think it's coming next year. I think they're still 2 years away from an actual problem. Especially when Pat Mahomes' contract balloons up into $47 million.
I mean, absolutely. So let me ask you this. you think they can be as good next year as they were this year? Because that's what regression means.
I think it's close.
So you think they're going to go 14-2 again?
They could be 13-3.
That's a regression.
Okay, but
I think they're closer to 11-5. But that's just me.
If you go from being number 1 seed in the AFC to the possible number 2 seed in the AFC, I don't consider that necessarily regression. Yes, it is on the books, but
it's actually the definition of regression.
But when you say
if you
regression,
look up regression in a dictionary, it would be what you just said.
But it's not, it doesn't matter. It's not a regression that matters because they'll still be in the hunt. When you say,
I'm not saying
this is a team that's going to regress, I'm thinking, so this is a team that might fall out of the playoffs. Absolutely not.
No, that's not a regression. That's a catastrophe. Do you realize that they would have to lose 5 more games next year than they did this year to fall out of the playoffs? That's not going to happen.
Of course not.
I'm saying there's going to be a regression where they're not this vaunted superhuman team that nobody can stop. Mm-hmm. I think they're closer to 11-5 than they are to 14-2.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything they can do to fix that.
Yep.
But I do look for them to draft. The draft is going to be that's going to be their home run swing because they have to find some cheap talent. Mm-hmm. They do have picks. I think you're going to see linebackers. I could see them doubling up on linebacker. You got to remember with the line, too, they do get back Mitchell Schwartz, who's the right tackle. Mm-hmm. They'll get back Eric Fisher. They do have
Reader.
That's another one I was thinking of. Andrew Wiley and DuVernay Tardif.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a market improvement to the line right there. What they would be looking for is more depth. And there are a lot of depth linemen in this draft that beauty can be in the eye of the beholder.